All right, new day and another laptop that needs to be saved, and this time we have an Alienware 17R4. But here's the thing about this one. This customer sent this to iFix to get the fans and keyboard replaced. They were supposed to keep it for about a week or so. They kept it for 3.5 months because they apparently blew out the motherboard and tried to send it to another division to try to get it repaired. The customer got the laptop back, the keyboard wasn't replaced, and the fans were not replaced, and the laptop is still dead. So I haven't taken a look at this yet. Let's take a look together and see if we could save this laptop. All right, first thing I want to do is see if it turns on. Let's hit the power button. No power there. Let's keep an eye on the power meter. I'm going to plug in the charger. I want to see what it does. Okay, so it goes to 0.02, so it means that we don't have a short on the main power rail. Now, iFix, it's more like you break, we break it more in this situation, I guess. And I guess they were opening it up and ripped something or broke something and haven't been able to figure it out. Now, if we look at the power meter here, I'm seeing it's actually pulling 0.17 now, which is not good. So let me unplug this. I'm going to plug it in again. Let's take a look. 0.01, that's good. And then we're just watching. Okay, now and then jumps up to 0.15. Now that's a strange one. Now this could be something to do with like a pre-charge current, like the battery may be low, and so it's trying to trigger the battery in a charge because there was a delay on there. It wasn't instantaneous right when I plugged it in. We're gonna have to open the bottom up and take a look inside. Okay, and the bottom is off. Okay, very interesting. So we have a bag of screws inside of here. I didn't really expect this to happen here. Oh, I see some broken latches. Are you serious? What the? Let me get under the microscope so I could show you. Oh my gosh, if this is like what another repair shop did, I just can't believe it. All right, here's where the keyboard plugs in. You can see that this is the keyboard backlights. And both of those ZIF connectors are busted, and we do have the new ones in the bag here. Luckily, those can go back in there, but it is pretty crazy that they are broken off. This cable may even actually be bad because it's crimped so bad. These aren't crucial for the machine to turn on, but that is just something to note that somebody did not know what they were doing. It says right here, disconnected ribbon cables, locks are in the plastic bag. Okay, we know that. The customer also made a note that's saying that the SSDs in here don't match what they originally had, so I don't know if they mixed some stuff up. We have an NVMe here, and we have just a 2.5-inch SSD there. I'm just gonna get this stuff out of the way. All right, now that we have both of the drives out of the way, the only way to really access this is to take the center frame out. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue taking screws out, and then we can get to the center frame, then we can access the board, and it'll be a lot easier to be able to address what's going on. At this point, we don't know what's actually damaged. It could be something as simple as like the power button cable, but if they're saying they shorted the board, which we see that 0.17 being pulled 170 milliamps, we don't know exactly what's pulling that current, and it is not supposed to do that except if it's a battery pre-charge current. So that could be what's going on, but usually pre-charge current is going to be around 0.2 or 200 milliamps, but we will see momentarily. I can also see that we are missing a couple screws here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 screws are missing. We will have to get those replaced. So whenever I put this back together, I'll replace all the missing screws. We'll put this back to factory, but first we got to get it working. All right, we got the middle frame off, so now we can actually access the motherboard. Makes it a lot easier. I've opened this machine up enough times to know exactly what I need to do to see if I can repair this motherboard. Now, this is an older machine. 17R4 would be like a 2017, so this probably have a 7th gen CPU in it, which I know that Windows 10 now is end of life. You can do the workaround or install Linux on here. Still a good machine. Probably has a 1060, 1070, 1080 on this board. But quick look around. So we have an aftermarket battery here. This is non-genuine. You can tell it doesn't have a serial number on it. It doesn't have a Dell logo. A couple sticks of RAM. There's the fans. The fans look really clean. He says that they weren't replaced. Now, I don't know. Oh, you can tell this is bearings out on this one. That's probably why it needs to be replaced. It's all messed up here. This one seems okay, but it's this one that's messed up. Now, I'm assuming that's why they wanted it replaced. I'm going to unplug the battery. Let's plug in the charger and take a look again and see if we're getting that 0.17. So it's at 0.01. We're just going to wait. I just want to see if it jumps up to that 0.17. It probably was a pre-charged current for the battery, I bet. Yeah, see, it's not jumping up to that. So let's plug the battery back in. And I'm going to measure the battery before we plug in the charger just to kind of see what voltage we're at. So the battery's at 0.5 volt, is that right? Okay, now I'm going to plug in the charger. And now the battery's at 9 volts. So it's definitely pre-charged current. So we're gonna let it sit here for a minute. That should be able to get the battery up above a certain threshold and then start charging. The battery was probably at kind of a sleep state because it was a little low, and so it kind of shuts itself off. but you can see how it's actually trickling itself up using that low current. And we should be able to get it around 9.5, I think, is whenever it will up its charging rate. But while it's doing that, we know that it's charging, so why is it not turning on? Let's measure all these other coils around here. So if I check the charge coil, that's 9.3 now. We check the main power rail, we have 20 volts. Do we have the 3 volt? We have our 3.4. Do we have the 5 volt? We have our 5 volt. Okay, so at this point, I think I know what's wrong with this machine, and it's something very simple. And what would be really funny is if that's what it is. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but I think I know what's going on with this. We don't need this battery plugged in anymore for right now. I'm just going to flip this over and I want to show you what I think is going on. So charger's unplugged. So I forgot to take the battery out. Here you go. Battery was not plugged in anyway. All right, so battery out of the way. So here's what I want to show you. Is up here is where there's other connectors. So we have the LCD connector, we have Tobii Eye if you have that, which is the eye tracking. You have your power button ribbon cable, and then you have your Tron light that is for the alien head here. So I'll zoom in, I'm gonna show you a little bit closer. There you go, so there's the LCD connector. This does have Tobii Eye, I guess, and then there's the power button, and there is our alien head Tron light. All right, so what happens commonly on this model, and people don't know this ribbon cable gets damaged. Basically, it frays because it's really hard to get in there, and if you install it wrong, then it ends up fraying all the wires. I bet that's what's wrong with it, and the power button's just not working. So I'm going to take these speakers out because every time I flip this over, the speakers want to flop around. So I'm going to take this out and get it out of my way. So let's get under the microscope, and that way we can look at this power button ribbon cable. It'd be crazy if it is that simple. All right, so here's the ribbon cable. You can see it's a little bit mangly looking. It looks a little weak. I pretty much guarantee this is what's going on. Yeah, it looks a little funky. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna pop this up, slide this out. Let's take a look. Looks like they've straightened them out. They are messed up though. You can tell that they are messed up. But I don't know if this ribbon cable is gonna work or not. I don't care because I'm just gonna jump start this thing. So the way it'll do that is if you short these two pins together on this side, this is ground, this is the enable line. And so I'm just going to short that there to there, and it should power on. So I'm going to plug the power back in. Okay, charger's plugged in. Keep an eye on the power meter. Okay, you ready? Here we go. We're going to jump it. 3, 2, 1. I have the lid closed, so it may not turn on because the lid's closed and it says, okay, Hall effect sensor. So I'm going to open the lid up. There we go. Okay, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Hey, it's on! And you can hear it really loud. You hear it taking off. I guess the fan's messed up on it. Let me turn it around. Let's see if we can get the screen come up. Well, I don't see a screen. The fan's pretty loud here. Yeah, that fan needs to be replaced. Not seeing a screen. The keyboard I don't have hooked up, so I can't see if the keyboard's going to respond. So, all right, so the motherboard's working, kind of, right? We don't have a picture. Most likely just that cable is the problem. Now the next thing that we need to address is why we're not getting a picture. And I can tell you the next thing that people do a lot is they break this LCD connector because when they're pulling out the motherboard, they forget to unplug it. And so they rip the connector. So let's look at that. We may have to replace the LCD connector. You break, they break it more. It's a new business model. So you can tell that some soldering's been going on here. Oh, they broke the connector off and you can tell that they soldered it back on. That's what's going on. That's why they sent it off somewhere else. Look at that. So this huge capacitor, I don't know what's supposed to be there. We'll have to look at a donor board. This side's not broken though. Soldered that on. So maybe they just broke one side, but that's welded, JB Weld or something on there. Are all these pins good? So a lot of times they just rip the whole connector off, but this, I don't know if this was replaced actually. It looks like it was just touched up, but I don't think that capacitor goes there. What about this? Oh my gosh, look at this. The Tobii Eye is all ripped off here. This wire's unplugged. I mean, this is not, again, not required for it to work, but I'm gonna unplug it because I don't want that shorting out anything. All right, so that's out of the way. But this definitely has some mangled wires. Or maybe it's just a ground wire ripped out. Still pretty crazy. You break, we break it more. Let me grab a donor board. I want to see what that area looks like. I want to see if that capacitor is supposed to be like that, and then if there's supposed to be something right there. Sometimes there's a fuse right here. I can't remember. So let's grab a donor board. All right, I got a donor board here. So same one, same model. Now, if we take a look at that area, looks like it's the same setup. It has a smaller capacitor. Looks like they put kind of a bigger one there. It is, there's no component populated in that area, so that's pretty normal. Let me reseat the LCD connector and see if we can get that screen to come on. I'm interested to know if the connector is busted, like if they ripped it off, obviously, because if you bend it enough and you have to JB weld this whole corner, then sometimes it damages the connector. You can tell this is all bent here. And it's gonna be hard to kind of look down that connector with the microscope. And it could be this. We can actually use a test screen too if we need to. But I'm just gonna reseat this, plug it in all the way. Okay, we're in all the way. All right, let's do our power on trick. I'm gonna keep having these screws falling out of here, like at all these different spots. All right, so I turned it around. Let me plug it in. We'll use our tweezers to jump start it. Oh, I need the lid open. This is where it gets a little complicated. Okay, so you gonna turn on? No. Okay, I might have to do it under the microscope. All right, now we can see what we're touching. We just need to touch these two things together. There we go, it's on. And can we get a screen, please? I see the backlight on, I think, maybe. Sure is making a lot of noise. I'm probably gonna grab a test screen just in case, but I bet that connector needs to be replaced. Or maybe the backlight is blown. We need to get the keyboard hooked up so we can see if it's running. Let me plug in a USB keyboard. Okay, USB keyboard's plugged in. I mean, it seems like it's posting the way that the current's moving around. You see that? It's at 2 amps now. It's at 1.6. Yeah, I mean, it's moving around like it is on. But I'm not getting, oh, there we go. Do you see that? So the caps lock is working now. The laptop is running. So I guarantee if I hit enter right now, you'll see the current change. 3, 2, 1. I guaranteed it and it didn't work. What about Control-Alt-Delete? Yep, Control-Alt-Delete made it drop down, so it's rebooting the machine now. So we know it's running, we're just not getting a screen. Why are we not getting a screen? Is it the screen itself? Probably not. I bet it's the connector. I bet we're gonna have to pull this board out, change the LCD connector out. We're gonna have to put a new ribbon cable in for the power button, and then we'll change out the fans, and everything should be good to go. He did want a new keyboard, so I don't know if his keyboard is not working or what's going on with that, but we will take a look at that. So I'm gonna grab a test screen and we'll test with that first. All right, I got a test screen here, so let me get that connected. Actually, I'm gonna see if I can connect the power button first because it would be nice if I can get that power button ribbon cable working. The wire's a little bit mangled, but there is a trick to kind of get it in there, and it's just making sure not to have any tension on there at the same time. So we'll see if we can work that in there, and then that way it will save us from having to jump that every single time. So this cable right here, it could be the cable itself that's damaged, but a lot of times it's just the end that's frayed right here. And you can see that it's frayed, but it doesn't look totally severed. So a lot of times you can just kind of lift this up, make sure to set it in there very gently, and then push it down, and it will work. It does seem a little bit messed up on this cable itself, but I just want to see if we can get it working. Just enough to power it on. I don't really care about the lights on it or anything like that. Just don't want to slide it down while that thing is slid down either. Okay, so I have it set in place. Now I'm just going to lift this up, and then now we'll push it down in there. Good. And now we'll push that down. All right, so it's in place. Hopefully it didn't pinch any of the wires or bend any of the wires over. Let's see if we can get the power on. I have the LCD unplugged right now, by the way. Yeah, it's still not working. So I think that ribbon cable is completely shot. We sell the power button with ribbon cable, so it's like, you know, $10 or $15 or something like that. So we'll just have to do that instead. And so I'll just keep jumping this. So let's hook that test screen up. All right, I got the test screen plugged in. I'm gonna have to, here, what I'll do, a little bit of maneuvering here. Okay, power's plugged in. So here's our test screen. And then we have to open this lid because of the Hall effect sensor will think the machine's shut, and so it won't turn on. And then we'll try to jump this. And we got an Alienware screen. All right, so is it the connector or is it the screen? Well, at this point, we think it's the screen because the screen's working. Now we have to try to get the cables all connected for the keyboard. We have to pull the whole motherboard out anyway in order to change out this power button, so I'm gonna do that. We need to change out that fan, so we need to pull the motherboard out for that. I need to get in touch with the customer and figure out why he wanted to replace the keyboard. The keyboard looks like it's in pretty good condition, so we'll need to pull out the motherboard to replace the keyboard if he wants that replaced too. So we are kind of going through a few different things. I just shut the lid, it turned off because it thinks it's on, so I'm gonna open it again. The Hall effect sensor is working, you see that? Turning on and off. But we do have good news. No motherboard repair as of right now. So if you came for a motherboard repair, I'm sorry. I am sorry, but I am showing you how to diagnose something that was determined to be a bad motherboard, even though it wasn't. We just kind of went through a different rabbit hole for that. So I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and bolt this test screen onto this machine while we're working on it. And then I can work on the motherboard. Actually, we'll pull out the motherboard right now, actually. Yeah, they must have ripped the LCD ribbon cable, and that's why it's damaged and not working. There's only a few more screws here that hold this motherboard in, so it won't take very long to get it out. But we need to make sure we unplug everything from this side, which we have everything but one cable. We need to unplug that one right here. Okay, there we go. So when you're working on this machine, I want you to stop and think and say, okay, we need to make sure that we have all the cables unplugged from the other side, because that is the number one damage that I see. So we were missing quite a few screws that hold this motherboard in. There's supposed to be two here, supposed to be a bracket on here, and another screw here, and then screws for the fans. None of those were in there. So we were missing quite a few. All right, and the motherboard is out. And oh, this is no good. I want to show you this. We don't have any damage here. They're very lucky. If you look at this, this is the DC jack. They have it route to the back, comes across here. And then this is a foil tape that's actually highly conductive. It's usually isolated underneath this plastic film here. But whoever put it together like that, which is a no-no, because it will short out on these MOSFETs, these power MOSFETs here. And so, yeah, there's an issue for sure. So I will make sure this gets put back together the correct way, and we'll be putting it underneath there. All right, so this is the fan that needs to be replaced. Which one is it? This one. So this fan needs to be replaced. We actually sell a whole assembly for this, which will be a new heatsink and fans and everything like that. So I'll figure out if that's what he wants to do, because then we'll have new heatsink and compound. We'll get it all cleaned up. This is where the power button is. So we sell a whole power button board with ribbon cable, and that's what we'll have to do, because I don't sell the ribbon cable separately. Really, the ribbon cable is what goes bad only, but the power button rarely does itself, but it comes with it, so that's what we'll have to do. So here's the cable. So I'll go grab one of these from stock. I'm gonna call the customer and figure out if he wants the new keyboard replaced or something like that, and then we'll also grab a new fan, and then I'll be right back. All right, so here's the power button. We do have it in stock, and then the fan assembly. This is actually my last one. They're $80 still, but this is the last one I have in stock. These machines are getting older, so the parts are not around anymore, but I do have a new assembly. All right, there we go. We have our new parts. I'm gonna start with this power button because we already have this out, and then we'll put the new heatsink on. They wanted the new fan and heatsink assembly. This customer actually sent another motherboard, so we have another motherboard we can look at for him if we wanted to help diagnose that issue, but he did buy it as a bad board. But since his original board is actually working fine, that's good news. Let me remove this old power button, and we will get it installed. There we go, it's out of there. You know, it's funny is I have a lot of U-Break-I-Fix locations actually order parts from us. I'm assuming the one that worked on this machine does not order parts from us, because they did not buy a new power button to fix this issue, or maybe they didn't know that that was the issue. But I guess there's multiple problems. I almost guarantee they must have pulled the motherboard out with unplugging any of these cables and broke the power button ribbon and the LCD at the same time. Because if this LCD ribbon cable's busted or the screen's not working, then that would make sense that they ripped that. This cable doesn't look bad, but we're gonna end up having to replace the screen anyway. Let's get the new fan assembly on there. I'm gonna remove their old one. Unplug the fans, because the fans are plugged in on the opposite side of the board. That's the best design ever. All right, and the fan is off. Wow. If you look closely, you can see that there's pretty much no heatsink compound on there. I mean, it's very, very thin. Now, it's not the worst I've seen. Usually I see it overflowing everywhere, but it definitely could use more. And I guess it had been replaced at some point. And these pads, like this one is actually not in the right place. It should be on top of there, but it has fallen off. And so it isn't even cooling properly. And I think that one's even missing an extra one here. But the new fan heatsink assembly comes with all new pads. Here it is. And here's our new assembly here. It is the exact part number. Everything we sell is going to be Dell genuine OEM, has a serial number on it and everything. And so you know that what you're getting is going to be the exact part. You don't have to worry about it not being compatible. So that installs exactly right there. It's the exact same part number the old one was. I got to take off all this protective film, and it even has new heatsink compound on it. So we'll just peel all this out of the way. Okay, so now we can mount this on here, and it will be nice and new. All right, the heatsink is installed. Let me plug in the fans. And I think, should we just go ahead and bolt that test monitor on there, the test screen, or should we try their original screen again? I don't know. I feel like the test screen would be the more direct way of doing it, because I want to see it run all the diags. These latches, we'll be able to put those new latches on or snap them back in there. That's not going to be a big deal. I'm just trying to think of anything else we need to address while it's out, but I think we'll be okay. Let me just install the motherboard, and then we'll unbolt the LCD screen and install the LCD screen. All right, so I was going to put the motherboard in first, but I'm going to have to reroute all these LCD cables. So let me put the LCD screen on, and then we'll have to take it back apart again. I think I have these screens in stock too, so if they want to buy a new screen, that may be a solution. It may be just the LCD cable, but we're just going to pull this out. I just want to get this thing running the way that it should with a test screen, and then we'll give them a call and figure out exactly what we want to do. We also need to figure out if the keyboard is functioning properly, because originally they were going to replace the keyboard. I don't know if the keyboard's not functioning or not. Oh yeah, we need to make sure we tape this properly. Oh, you can actually see a burn hole. See, this is exactly what I was talking about. Okay. So remember we talked about this a few minutes ago, that this has a short potential. Well, look at this. Look at that. You see that burn hole that's melted? Something got really hot and melted. That actually might be one of the protection MOSFETs. And did it melt through here? I don't know. But it's actually not a hole all the way through. So I think this was melting because it was touching a MOSFET on the motherboard. So we're gonna have to test the MOSFETs on the motherboard, and we may have a shorted MOSFET. That's a symptom there. And we may end up having more board stuff to do. I didn't think we were gonna have to do any board stuff, but let me get this in place. I'm gonna tape this down. If we don't protect this right, then we're gonna end up having more issues. Okay, so that's good. That's all we need is just some capped on tape to protect that. All right, so now we can reroute the LCD cable out of there, bolt the other LCD screen on, and continue doing our testing here. I will be testing the protection MOSFETs on this motherboard because they do have a tendency of going out. So if they did short something, they may have blown that out. All right, here's their old screen. And here's my test screen. All right, the screen's installed. Let's install the motherboard now. And it goes in like this. So I'm only going to install the central cable, so we do need a keyboard and we need the touchpad. So here's the touchpad and here's the keyboard. The other two are the backlight. These are the backlight cables because the Alienware has tons of these light up lights on the touchpad and on the keyboard. We have to add a couple screws in here to hold it in place. This thing seems kind of warped. We're definitely missing a lot of screws. I bet I can find a bracket that goes here because I've worked on plenty of these. All right, so the motherboard's installed good enough there. I don't need those cables. Don't have the fans. All right, so now we get to plug these guys in. Turn this around. Okay, LCD's plugged in. Let's plug in the power button. I want to see how good this new power button is. So again, when you plug in this power button, you want to make sure to lift the connector up. So we don't want it down or else we're going to fray the wire. And then we'll take it and plug it in there first. And then we'll press that down. Make sure it's lifted. Come on. There we go. Now it's down in there, and now we can press that down. The ZIF connector is down now. We actually don't even need this Tron light. This is just kind of the Alienware head, but we might as well get it to light up and make it look pretty. Here's the other light that's busted. I'm not gonna worry about hooking that up. Okay, let's give it a go. Okay, power's plugged in. 0.01, good. Open the lid. Nothing. I need to reroute these wireless antennas. Apparently I put them in the wrong spot. It doesn't matter. Right now we're just trying to turn it on. I press the power button. 1.54. Alienware head. Go in the BIOS setup. And it is working. Let's put in the diagnostics. I want to hear those fans blow. Since we put new fans in there, I'm going to hold down the FN key, hit the power button, that will boot us straight into diagnostics. All right, CPU fan test. Look at that. Sounds good. Now we're going to do the GPU fan test. There it is. All right, so there you go. We got everything working on here. The last thing I wanted to check, because I'm going to call the customer and figure out if he wants that keyboard replaced. The keyboard seems to be working. I want to check and make sure we don't have any blown MOSFETs or any shorted MOSFETs in the input. So we're going to check that real quick just to do our due diligence, but I think we're going to be good to go here. So on the input, we have these input MOSFETs. A lot of times you'll have one of these get shorted because of heat. And that one's good. See if I have it in continuity mode. And that one's good there. So everything looks good. Everything's passing tests. I'm gonna run full diagnostics. But this customer is super lucky because his motherboard actually was not damaged. It was just some of the other components attached to it. I'm gonna fully reassemble it. We'll do full diagnostics on it. And I'd love to know your thoughts on this one. And thanks for watching.
I saved another laptop.